thank you for joining us today on Realty Check. I'm your host, Trish Williams. Thank you guys for tuning in. And if you like the show, make sure that you're sharing it with your friends. You're reviewing us on, or sending us reviews or recommendations on any of the portals that you're watching on. And also, don't forget to follow us either on YouTube, iTunes. You can download us and listen to us in your car, on the way, wherever you're going. We're in our new series today. It's a 6-part series on a real estate purchase from start to finish. So today's episode, we're in the very beginning, the part that you guys are all out there feeling right now, or a lot of people are feeling right now, is finding a home, navigating through this market, trying to find a home in this market. And we have our guest, Ryan Field. He's a return guest on our show.
Thank you for having me, Trish. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us again, Ryan.
Yeah,
Ryan's with Keller Williams, the marketplace. Same office as me, so we see each other a lot.
Yes.
Yes, and Ryan's very knowledgeable on things. We talk a lot about this. We talk a lot about, what's going on in the market, what's happening out there, what these buyers, the agents, everything that's happening. We discuss this a lot, so I thought it would be great to have you on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, it's a natural conversation for us. So, tell me what you want to talk about specifically, because I know that a lot of buyers are struggling right now because it's a unique time.
Right. So what's happening right now in our market, for those of you that don't know, which I'm sure, I think pretty much everybody knows what's going on in the market.
Yeah,
it's all over the news.
Especially if you're in the, thinking about buying or thinking about selling. I'm sure people are aware of what's going on to a certain extent.
What's going on?
Yeah.
I know every time I run into a friend or something, they're like, oh, you're in real estate? Wow. Suddenly they all feel sorry for you. They're like, this is, it's crazy out there. So right now we have 878 single family homes on the market in Las Vegas.
Under 400, right?
878 single family homes on the market. There's 702 under 400,000. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that for a minute. Under 400,000, that's most of your first time home buyers. Most of the entry-level buyers, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So there's not a lot to choose from.
No, there's not a lot on the market right now.
Yeah.
And, just to put things in perspective for people, in December, we had about 3,900 houses on the market. And in a normal market, we have about 6,000. So to have 700 is just crazy. Everybody is trying to get the same thing. So, there's 10 offers on every house, and you can pretty much make that assumption on every home that goes on the market right now.
Right.
Right?
So I'm sure you've seen this viral TikTok video about the apple.
Yeah.
With this, but that's so accurate, right? It's so, it's crazy. Every realtor we know sharing it, but that is what's going on right now. There's all these people jumping up there, bidding on homes where there's so many buyers out there just trying to get a home at all costs.
Yeah.
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 It's interesting. I think that, but a lot of people are making a mistake because it's a frenzy, and I don't know if you feel the same way on this, but I'm trying to reel people in because there isn't a lot of houses on the market right now, and a lot of people are, panicking a little bit, and they're like, well, there's nothing out there, so what if I settled for this? And it's kind of the balance of being patient and being aggressive. Like, if something comes up that's great, let's go look at it and let's do everything we can to get it. But I also don't want buyers to settle for something that they wouldn't buy whatsoever in a normal market.
Correct.
Do you feel that way?
Yes, and I understand what you're saying too, to a point. I always call it, I guess it's kind of like realtor term, right? Good bones. The house has to have good bones. It has to be in an area that the buyer's okay with. It has to have at least something that the buyer can work with. But if the home doesn't have that, and it can't be fixed, it can't be built out, it can't be changed,
right,
then it's not really the right fit.
I think that people have to justify it, right? So it has to make sense.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of houses out there. So, if the house needs a little bit of work, or you need to do some countertops, I feel like in a normal market, buyers are willing to do one thing, right? Most buyers. Yeah. They're willing to do some flooring or some countertops, but they're not willing to do countertops and flooring, because we live in this HGTV society where, everybody expects a house to be, perfect when they walk in. But I think now people having to understand that, hey, like as long as the bones are good, the floor plan's good, you like the area, maybe you are willing to do a little bit more work as long as the price justifies that.
Right. And what I'm seeing too with like those, homes that I guess are fixer-uppers, or something like that, they're not lower priced.
No, they're not bargains.
They're
no,
not bargains.
No.
There's not, someone's like, I'm not finding anything I like right now. How about I get a fixer-upper? And I'm like, yeah, they're the same price.
Yeah, right.
they're not any different. So people that are starting to shop right now, they're getting ready, they're working on their pre-approval. They're getting ready to get on out there and start shopping. What do these buyers need to be prepared for? Because I see it as like they're suiting up right now. They're going out into the battlefield. What should they be expecting? Because they'll
what
see
should the
once
buyers
they
be
start.
expecting?
Yeah.
They should be expecting a lot of competition. They should be expecting a house to be gone within 2 or 3 days of being listed.
Yeah, sometimes hours.
Depending. I mean, I'd say what, 48 hours typically I'm seeing houses are gone.
Because they are, most sellers don't want to sign off on the first offer they receive right now.
Exactly.
They want to see what's coming in because, truth be told, most houses are selling right now $20,000 at least over whatever they're listed at.
Yeah.
If it's desirable and if it's, really a great home that buyers want, you're going to see that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So buyers need to be prepared to be aggressive. I mean, if you're, sometimes I'll have a buyer that I start shopping with, in the first day or two, and we're looking at homes, and they say, "Oh, well, this price is, $400. Do you think they'll take $380?" And
No.
No.
And it's just not. It's not that environment.
It's not.
And I wish it was different. You know what I mean? Because obviously we want all buyers to get the best house at the best price.
Yeah.
But it's just not happening right now.
As an agent, don't you miss negotiating?
We're still negotiating.
We're still
negotiating.
We still are. It's just in a different way. I remember that's like, that time where it's like, yeah, we just got a crazy good deal on this house. We negotiated it down and we did all this. And it's, those days that's not what we're seeing because you can offer any price you want, but.
We're not there now.
Yeah.
We're not
there.
No, we're not. Go ahead.
So what, besides going in aggressively, being prepared to be aggressive, being prepared to make strong offers, what else do you think buyers should be doing?
A lot. I think the mistake, one of the bigger mistakes that people make is they don't work with the right agent, right? They don't work with somebody who is really competent and has experience. I think that for whatever reason, when people are choosing an agent, it's not necessarily this is the best person I can hire. A lot of it is relationship based, and I think that can be a mistake, right? Because if you hire your part-time cousin that does real estate and sells 3 houses a year versus hiring somebody like you and I who are full-time and sell over 50 homes a year, then it's going to be a different experience. Just like you'd want to go to the best doctor that you could, I would think that people would want to work with the most competent agent they can. Right. And I think that is the biggest thing, because when we see 10 offers on a house, and it's, if I listed a house yesterday, I'll get 10 offers, and the most competent agent typically wins. And if there's 10 offers and 8 of them will just email the offer over to us, and 2 of the agents will actually pick up the phone. So I don't know if that's your experience, but that's probably the ratio that I'm seeing.
Oh, yeah.
And you need somebody aggressive that can say, hey, this is why you should accept my offer. And a lot of times it's how good that agent is and how easy they're going to make it on the listing agent. So I think that's a big thing that they need to do right now, is just have somebody aggressive who's going to pick up the phone and really just try to slam dunk your offer in.
So why is it that listing agents want that a competent buyer's agent to work with? I mean, I know the answer, but there's so many answers to this,
because real estate's like anything else. There's top professionals and there's people that aren't so good. And the reality of real estate is there's a lot of agents that are not full time, right? So it's something that they do on the side. And if you're a surgeon and you do 50 surgeries a year, you're going to be better than the surgeon that does 3 surgeries a year. And that's just the reality. So I think that, and as an agent, I want to work with somebody who knows what they're doing, that isn't going to make my life more challenging than it has to be, right? Because I feel like when we're working with an agent that is less competent, that we're doing 90% of their job.
Right. It's through from the listing side when we're working with a buyer's agent that's not really doesn't know what they're doing, or some of them. I mean, I literally one time had a buyer's agent that at the end of the escrow, like after closing, asked me for copies of all the addendums and documents and everything because they weren't keeping anything.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what? Who are you?
Yeah.
Like, what? And I've had times where buyers, agents, clients have called me because they couldn't get a hold of the agent because my name's on the sign. And I'm like, I'm not your agent. You need to call your agent.
Yeah.
Like that's, so yes, things like that, it can make it difficult for us, but it also hurts us in representing the seller because we're trying to navigate this transaction smoothly, and in representing our seller smoothly and getting through everything. We don't want someone that is going to be dropping the ball all the time on the other side, that could not be putting together a solid transaction that's actually going to close, because agents so many times will put together something so flimsy it has no chance in closing. So we need that.
Yeah, and I think that also, it affects our client, right? So if the buyer's agent is not setting the right expectations, it's creating more pain for the seller, right? So not only is it about us having a good experience, I mean, ultimately it's about our client, and our client's going to have a better experience with a better agent because they're going to be able to keep their buyer, in the right lane that they should be.
Right.
So I think that is why we're always going to gravitate towards the more competent person. So if 2 offers are the same, a lot of that comes down to who's the better agent. Right.
If they're the same, yeah.
No,
I mean, of course, we're going to go for the best offer for our seller. But
of course.
if they're the same, it does come down to who are you going to be working with on the other side. And again, I can't tell you how many times I've had to, I've had to communicate with the buyer's agent's lender because the buyer's agent doesn't understand the closing process, or what's next, or what needs to be next, or coming next, or when loan docs, or what underwriting, or what full conditional approval means. Those things that on the listing side, to make sure that everything's okay with your seller, you can't get that through to them, and you just have to go straight to the lender and say, like, hey, where are we at with this? Because they don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's tough.
Yeah, I think that it's a competitive market, and yet, I think that if there's 10 offers, that, my buyer's going to be the one to get the house, just because when you call the agent and if I have a buyer that's looking at a $400,000 house, the first thing I'm going to do is call the agent and say, hey, what do we need to do? Convey that you're competent, right? Indirectly. And I think that goes a long way. So, I always feel like I'm working with some buyers right now, and I'm also getting referrals from lenders because the lenders are attached to the outcome too, right? They can't do your loan without having an accepted contract. So I have lenders that are sending us referrals right now from people that can't get into contract on houses because their lender probably isn't aggressive enough, probably isn't communicating well enough.
Yeah.
And
I CC my lender on all the offers. Whenever I send an offer, I CC the lender. He always chimes in, and gives them his, or whoever, whoever I'm working with, gives them basically an assurance along with the offer. And
that goes a long way, right? And that's just something as a veteran agent who's proactive, right?
Right.
That, for buyers that are trying to get a house right now, work with a great agent. That is step one. Call Trish or I. Work with a great agent. And if you're not working with us, work with somebody who's full-time and sells enough houses. Secondly, I think getting a good approval letter, working with a local lender, I think is huge because
you don't want to have I'm not even going to say the name, but some of these big institutions, right? These banks that are like closing dates and contingency dates or suggestions, and they're just
I think that's a mistake that people make, is that they get so focused on the rate, right? Like, Rocket Mortgage is going to give, I'm going to say that. Rocket Mortgage is going to give me an eighth better rate, so I'll save $4 a month on my payment. But you have to get the house. And I think that people fall into that trap sometimes where they're just looking at numbers and losing the big picture of, but you still have to get the home. And a lot of agents that, the inside the industry reality is that a lot of the agents here don't want to work with Rocket Mortgage or, Wells Fargo or Bank of America.
A lot of big institutions.
Yeah, because the timing and the appraisals and the experience is better typically with a local reputable lender.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. And I feel like there's been times, or I know for certain, there's been times where I've seen specific names of big institutions on agent-to-agent remarks that says, we will not accept any offers from this bank. And I'm like, wow, they've been burned more than once. So there's definitely, there are those circumstances. I mean, there's banks I've tried to, when you have a local lender, you can, if all else fails, you can go down to their office, and just say, hey, let's get this done. But you're dealing with these big institutions, and there's times where you're a number.
Well, and there's less, that's a great point, because there's less accountability, right? There's less accountability when I can go to somebody's office versus when that processing the loan center is in Detroit, right? And there's no FaceTime, there's no...
And they can just block your calls.
Yeah, or just never get back to you. And it's also a customer service issue.
Of course.
I think that these things that we're talking about go back to having a good agent that says, hey, you're not using Wells Fargo. You know what I mean? This is why. And having somebody who's strong enough to tell you, hey, this is not really conducive to getting your offer accepted. You want to work with somebody local. You want to provide a bank statement to the seller showing that you have the down payment funds. Some of these little things are really the difference in getting your offer accepted or not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that. There are certain, seasoned agents that are out there that they will not choose an offer over the institution that the buyer has pre-approval for.
I did that 2 days ago.
Yeah, so it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's buyers don't want to hear it, so nobody wants to hear it. But this is also the type of market where you need to trust in what your realtor's telling you. It is so crucial right now. We always deal with, or I'm sure all of us do. I know I do. Have instances a lot where the buyers or the clients I'm working with have to see that what I'm saying is true before they really believe it.
Yeah.
It's making those strong offers. They have to get rejected before they say, oh, okay, you're right, let's do this, But right now is not the market to be second guessing what your agent's telling you. You really, you hired a professional for a reason. You've got to trust in what they're saying, especially, someone who's seasoned, who's been in this and working through this whole time, someone that's constantly doing transactions. Could you imagine a buyer right now that's working with an agent that hasn't sold a home since last year? And it's common. That's not an uncommon situation.
I think that's probably more common than not common.
It is because the majority of realtors
are selling 3 to 4 homes a year, right?
That's the statistics. Yeah.
So they're going to be lost and essentially not equipped to.
Because the agent's going to remember how the transaction went last year,
right?
How the offers went last year.
When we had twice as many homes on the market.
Yeah, and they're going to navigate it the same way, which there's nothing wrong with that. You do it how you remember doing it last time. That's how people do things. But in this market, the way it is, and especially if they don't have someone coaching them or guiding them through what to do, they're going to be 10 steps behind.
Yeah, I like what you said about professional, right? Like I feel like I'm the professional's professional. I want people that value professional services, right? So, I mean, that's typically who I gravitate towards and who gravitates towards me. And they need to listen to what we're saying, and they need to understand that they're going to have to jump through some hoops to get homes right now, right? But you're right, it's not the market where you're losing out on a house because you wanted to do it your way, or your perception of what is going on is different.
Right.
So,
right. And what for buyers that are out there shopping right now in the market, what do they do when, or buyers, agents, whoever it is, what do you do when you're up against cash offers? Because let's be honest, there's more cash buyers in this market right now than I've seen in a while. Where we have cash buyers from California, from other states, from wherever. There are a lot of cash buyers competing in this market. And for a buyer that's in that price point, because it's in a certain price point where there's more cash buyers.
Sure.
For a buyer that's shopping in that price point, that's constantly, they're financed. This buyer's got a pre-approval. They have a strong pre-approval, but they're constantly getting beaten out by cash offers. What options or what scenarios does the buyer have to try to make those offers better?
I don't even think, personally, I don't think that cash is better than finance.
I don't either. I agree.
I think that if you're trying to differentiate your offer and you're doing a loan, show your down payment funds, have the lender contact the agent, right? You can show the DU findings, which is basically a sheet that shows that your debt to income ratio is good. It shows that you have a good credit score, just things like that. Things that are just and these are savvier things that you and I are doing because we're trying to provide out of the box things to convey that they're a good buyer. And those things are providing confidence to the listing agent and the seller. Right. So I think that those are little things you can do. If you want to talk about waiving appraisal, we can talk about that. I think that's where you're going.
Well, no, that is so some people have the option or have the ability to do so, to pay X amount of dollars over the appraisal, put that in the initial offer that says, if I know that I'm out shopping and I have all of my cash to close, if I were shopping, for a house and I knew this is what I would do myself in this market. If I know that I need this much cash to close and I have an additional $10,000 to $20,000 or whatever that I can use, that initial offer off the bat, I wouldn't even mess around with counter offers or going back and forth. On that initial offer that I made, I know the market. I would say, I'll pay up to $20,000 difference if there's an appraisal shortage, because that initial offer, you just put it out there. It's not waiting for some buyers to say, well, I'll wait and see if they counter offer that, or I'll get on the counter offer.
There's no time
you may
for that.
never hear back.
Yeah, it's not a counter offer market, right?
It's not a counter offer
You have
market.
to write the offer in a way that is going to get accepted. So yeah, obviously waiving appraisal. I think that's happening more often than it's not. That's what I'm seeing.
The other buyers are doing it. They are.
Yeah, they are doing it. And and that's the other reason you need a high level agent, is because you need somebody to, be able to navigate that, right? Be able to, hey, yeah, you're going to be in this position, but I know you and I meet the appraiser every time, trying to get the highest value, because everybody wants the highest value from the appraisal. It's in the best interest of the buyer, it's in the best interest of the seller. So we're doing the little things like meeting the appraiser at the house, making sure that it's appraising for as much as possible.
Well, we can't control the appraisal, of course, but we're providing the appraiser with. So what I always do, I have a printout. I provide the appraiser with a printout of the features of the home.
Right.
The appraisers are in there 15 minutes.
Yeah,
they're in, they're out. And some things may get overlooked. And I have had that where, an appraiser may have not noticed or overlooked something, and I provide that documentation. We're allowed to provide documentation. We're not allowed to talk appraisers into value.
Yeah.
I won't even have a conversation with an appraiser when I meet them. I just say, hi, how you doing? Here's the information. This is my price sheet, what we base pricing off of, and this is the features of the home.
Right.
And that's it. I'll stay out of your way. And it's up to you from there.
Well, I mean, it's good savviness, good common sense, because you're basically giving them ammunition to give you the value that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, at least giving them, showing that we didn't pull a number out of a hat.
Right.
And showing that we, it's showing that you took a professional approach and researched this before doing it.
Right.
This shows there's been times where we've had 12 offers on a home, and I brought all 12 offers, printed them out, brought them, and just sat down, sat it down there and said, hey, if you want to just see that, there was all these buyers that wanted this house as well.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes a difference. I don't know. But again, I don't try to talk them into that, because it's an appraiser's job to determine that, that whole value, that whole structure. It's just, if an appraisal goes south and it comes to an appraisal dispute, right? So if an appraisal goes south, the agents always have the right to dispute the appraisal or to challenge it. And what do they want? They want documentation. They want where you got your pricing from.
Right.
So
why don't you provide that up front instead of having to be combative, right?
Right. Why wait till it goes south? And that's exactly that.
Yeah. But that's being proactive and doing your job, right? I mean, that's part of what I get frustrated with agents is they're really not doing their job, right? Like, and when you're trying to get somebody a house and they love that house and there's 10 other offers, I am not doing my job if I'm not picking up the phone and doing everything I can to put them in position to get that home.
Right. No, and that's true. And I've had, and agents that I've worked with on the other side, no, I work hard. There was one agent a few days ago that, our buyers were looking at homes, and they had, we kind of just missed the ball, by a couple minutes every time. Offer just got accepted. An offer got accepted. Same listing agent, right? So I'm on the second home, and I'm calling him, and I'm like, hey, about to give him this whole spiel about my buyers again, second time in one day. And he's like, I'm so sorry, but we just took an offer at that house too. I was like, come on. So he says, he's like, you're working really hard, and I could tell it. I have this home coming up, over here, and just kind of gave us a break, right? Gave us a break.
Well, and the harder you work, the more likely that is to happen, know. And we're working. The other thing too with offers is don't ask for anything. Don't ask for closing costs. Don't ask for home warranties. It's a big picture attitude where, a home warranty is $450.
Do you want to lose an offer over $450?
Do you want to lose the home that you love and that 10 other people want over $450?
No.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. No.
Yeah, and you want to make it easy for the seller to move forward. So you want to write an offer that they're just going to sign, that they have no objections to, that they don't have to counter, that they can just be like, great, right? And then they can just sign the 10-page contract, and that's it.
Another thing I find hard for buyers is trusting in the process, right? That you have your earnest money deposit, right? So you're like, well, the appraisal, well, what if it doesn't? And what if it does? There's so many what ifs that can happen through a real estate contract.
Sure.
We do have contingencies that protect certain things from happening, and that's great. So sometimes, and that's what it comes down to. Sometimes I just say, sometimes you just have to trust the process. Trust the process. If it doesn't, if the home inspection's bad or this or that, let's not worry about the what ifs day one. Let's worry about getting you into contract and trusting the process that it will work out. I can't promise you that, because I've had people too that say, well, what if at the home inspection the seller refuses to fix everything or, whatever. Yeah, they might, especially these days.
There's a lot of what ifs.
There's a lot of what ifs, and you just have to trust
But again, it all comes full circle to have a good professional, right? Because when we're talking about people's earnest money, their good faith money that they put up when they're trying to, when they get their offer accepted, like, hey, I'm serious about buying this house, here's $6,000, you know, there's never going to be an instance where we're putting that at risk, right?
Right.
But if you're not on your game as an agent, then you could definitely put your buyer in a terrible situation.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And so I think that a lot of people don't realize that, and you know, I think that as long as you are treating that buyer's money as if it's your own,
and I do,
and that's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
If you are a good professional, you should be treating that money as if it's your own. And how would you protect it? And what would you be doing to make sure that you're hoping for the best and planning for the worst?
Right.
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 So,
but that's it. But yes, but sometimes, yeah, you have to trust the process. You know, you have to just wait until that home inspection, see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Don't try to, you know, negotiate repairs first day or whatever. You know, sometimes people will do that. They're like, hey, I don't like the way that looks over there. Put it in the offer. And I'm like, how about we wait for the home inspection, get an analysis on it first, because you're putting in that offer day one and you're already requesting all these things from the seller.
Well, and that comes back down to, you know, tactfulness, right? And we've talked about that a lot today. Is just there's a time and a place, right? It just comes down to when is the most tactful opportunity to ask for these things.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So but it you know, I think the biggest mistake again is that people are working. You know, if there's 10 offers, 8 of them just email your offer and never call. I feel I don't really have a lot of empathy for the agents, but I feel bad for the customers that are working with agents that, you know, unfortunately they just don't know any better, and they're working with somebody that isn't really doing everything they can to get their offer accepted or isn't setting the right expectations. So, you know, work with the best professional you can. That's the
And what
sum
about
of
the
today.
agents that are scared of multiple offers? How many times do you have agents contact you and say, oh, do you have offers on a property? Well, of course we do.
Yeah.
Do you know the market? Like,
Yeah, right.
Of course we do, right? Does that mean you don't give your clients a shot at it? Unless we're reviewing today in 2 hours or whatever.
If that scares you, then you probably shouldn't be doing this job.
Yeah, if it
right?
scares you, just take some time off till the market cools.
Well, if that scares you, I mean, but you know what? Even in a regular market, I wouldn't call this regular, but in a regular market, if something is really desirable and priced right, there's still going to be several offers.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, if you don't think that you are going to get that house for your buyer when there's 10 other offers on it, you're probably not good enough to be representing them.
Right.
I mean, that's harsh, but it's the reality.
Yeah, I think that buyers and buyers agents shouldn't be afraid of multiple offers. I do understand the fact that, you know, there's some homes that, you know, you could be going to look at it right now and they're already presenting offers. Too late. You missed it. You know, you're too late on that one. So I understand that aspect of it, but the ones that are, oh no, we don't even want to look at it if there's offers already. You know, it's like, okay, well, today's Thursday. We're not presenting offers till Monday. You have plenty of time.
Yeah.
And they're shying away from it because they're too scared to compete. That is a little disturbing to me.
Yeah. And I mean, if the agent isn't willing to compete, then, you know, that's kind of a loser mindset, right? And then if the buyers aren't willing to compete, then they're not hearing the right expectation of the market, because, you know, right now it's not a traditional market, and, you know, everything has multiple offers that looks good and is priced right.
Yeah,
right.
No, looks good, priced right, and you're up against you're up against aggressive offers. So
yeah, it
is what it is. You got to bring your best game, you know. And last thing before we wrap it up, just 2 other tips that I think are great for buyers is if they're out shopping in a home's owner occupied, you know that seller's got to go somewhere. Work those into your offers. Work out a sweet deal for
Great
them
point.
because they're, you know, one of the seller's biggest challenges right now, where are they going to go? That's a huge concern. The sellers and most times are often buyers, and one of their biggest fears and their biggest challenges are where are they going to go? So buyers, you need to work that scenario in. It might be uncomfortable for you. work it into that offer, and that might make your offer
I
stand
think a
out
lot of
little
times
bit.
that's the deciding factor, right? Is, how can you give them 30 days to move out after you
months.
buy that? Yeah. I mean, but I think that the mistake that some people make is that they think that everything is price driven, and price is a huge factor, and yet it's not everything, right? A lot of times it's, okay, timeline, can I give them 30 days, right? So there's a combination of factors.
Well, just think about this. If a buyer has, they don't have any extra cash besides their closing funds that they have to come in with, and it's tough for them right now in this market because they can't pay the difference in appraisals or the difference of, whatever. But they do, by most loans, you have 90 days before you have to occupy the property, So what if they offered the seller 3 months to stay rent free? And, that's equal to what, $2,500, $3,000 a month?
Mm-hmm.
That's
More.
$9,000, right?
Yeah.
That's 9,000. That has monetary value.
I agree.
And that has monetary value for the seller, and the seller who's trying to find another home, that gives them peace of mind.
Right.
So think outside the box.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, I mean, but again, the agent's got to be able to suggest that, because you're right. I mean, it's, when you're making what a lot of sellers are making right now, when you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars on your house, then maybe $2,000 more isn't as impactful as just having the peace of mind, not having to, find something tomorrow to buy, right?
Yeah.
So that's a great point.
And not every buyer's willing to do that or can do that, so that will set you aside.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, it's been good talking to you today,
Yeah, you
Ryan.
too. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming back on the show. And Ryan, how do people reach out to you?
You can reach me on my direct line, 702-335-5665. So if you have any questions, anything I can help you with, feel free to reach out.
All right. And you guys know how to reach me, 702-308-2878. Make sure you continue to watch our show, share it with your friends, write us reviews, follow us, download us, all that good stuff, right? Keep tuned in. Next week, we're going to be talking about contingencies. The contingencies through a contract and what they mean and what they're there for and all that good stuff. So we'll be, after you find a home, once you get through this part, now you're in contract, what happens next? So we're going to walk you through this entire process, and we look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.